Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, my friends, and Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Weissoon. It's just around the corner.
You're right. It really is. It's amazing how fast time flies these days. Or I guess it's still 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It sure does seem like it go by a lot quicker, sometimes at least.
I know it.
Particularly this time of the year, as people are anticipating Christmas and just past Thanksgiving. And I know you, like I, had an absolutely great time with getting to spend time primarily with family and a few friends. And I'm sure everybody else out there had very much the same kind of experience that we did. I'm thankfully thanks to Nicole over at the Choctaw Lodge prior to Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving dinner. I think I gained about 10 pounds over a relatively short period of time.
It can happen. The dressing, I have a weakness for the turkey and dressing with that good cranberry sauce on it. I'll tell you what I did. I got a supply of Hornady. Deer season is really, to be honest with you, I really just started seriously hunting deer myself about 2 or 3 weeks ago. The cool weather hit and I got fired up, but I got some 270 and also the 6.5 PRC to use, and I stocked up. I should have plenty. I want to do a little range shooting with that Hornady, Larry, and just check, make sure everything's still on. And that's a pretty good tip for anybody. You might have sighted your rifle in back in October or whenever and put it up, and it's good. Well, it's not a bad idea throughout the season if you're at a place, your hunting lodge that you go to, or your camp, or your back 40, and just take a few practice shots, Make sure you're on.
It really is. And of course, Hornady goes by the tagline of accurate, deadly, dependable. And actually, that's what I'm taking to the Panhandle on a hunt that I'm headed to here very shortly for a mule deer hunt. And also on that one, I've got my Mossberg. I've got a Patriot in a 7mm PRC. And of course, Mossberg is one of our sponsors, as well as is the Stealth Vision, which produces some unbelievably great binoculars and, as far as I'm saying, the best spotting scopes and best hunting scopes there are. But I'm also going to carry on that one. I'm carrying a Taurus pistol with me up there too, just in case, because I like hunting with handguns, and all those things come together. But you're right. To me, anytime that you're out, and going hunting, I always like to shoot my rifle. I know that the rifle, the ammunition, the scopes that I use, such as you do, they're the best there are, and where they shoot. But still, little things can happen, and it's always a great confidence builder, as far as I'm concerned, to go when I go on a hunt, regardless where it is, whether I'm driving, flying, or almost even walking. I want to make sure that rifle is still properly sighted in, and I like to shoot, and so I use that as an excuse to get out there and put something out on the range at 100 yards, and then knowing some of the ballistics on those guns, know where they ought to be at 100 yards, and then where they'll be out at 200 yards as well too.
There's nothing like going into a hunt. I don't care if I'm bow hunting or whatever I'm hunting with, especially a rifle. And knowing, having the confidence is everything. Knowing that you can put the bullet where you want. And I've been in situations, and I know you have too, where iffy. You wonder what's going on here. You might, for some reason, you may lose confidence for that hunt or something. You might have dropped your rifle or whatever. That's no fun. So
no,
checking it out. We can recap some we have some fun hunts, and then of course, you'll be in the Panhandle right away. About the time folks are hearing this, we're recording it a couple of days early, folks. But Larry's heading up for a deer hunt, a mule deer hunt, right? In the Texas Panhandle.
Yes, it's up on some of the old T-Boone Pickens country that I'm working with a company here locally where I live called Bird Dog. They do hunts pretty much all over North America and a few other places as well. And they're working with the current landowner in terms with going to do some wildlife management work while we're up there as well too. Just kind of get a good look as to what they can do to maybe improve that property for quail, which they do a lot of quail hunting up there as well too, and for mule deer and maybe even a lesser extent, whitetail, and I think there are a few pronghorn on part of that country as well too. So, it's going to be a combination kind of thing of being up there. But I'm really looking forward to as well. The old Field and Stream magazine years ago was one of the top three of the with Sports and Field, Outdoor Life, and Field and Stream. Well, it went away for a while, and it's back now, and it's available in a digital form, but it's also available in a print form, and you have to join their organization, if you will. And there's a cost involved, but the writers that have been there and the writers that are there, I think people are going to be really thrilled if they go to that site. I think it's fieldandstream.com and learn a little bit more about what they're doing to bring that publication or that organization, if you will, almost back to where it was many, many years ago. So being a part of that, of being able to go up there, and I think they're having a film crew come up and they're going to film some of the things we're doing and all those other kind of good things. So looking forward to that hunt in so many different ways, because I know a lot of that country too had burned and the result of those burns that they had up there, those fires, there's a tremendous amount of wildlife feed that was created by that. And so it's going to be interesting to see from a lot of respects. And once I get up there and do the hunt, we'll come back and we'll tell people a little bit about what the hunt was like, what we saw, and what effect the fires had, and all those other kind of good things.
Larry, I've got some buddies that hunt quail there, and then also up around Aspermont, up in there, serious quail hunters for wild quail. And the quail,
right,
I won't say they're back totally like they were back in the 80s, but they're back. I mean, there's huntable numbers of wild quail, which is a fantastic thing, and I bet you'll be right in the epicenter up there on some of that land that Mr. Pickens had. I bet you'll be right in some prime quail hunting,
Yeah, I think we may be, if I get fortunate and take a deer early in the hunt, I may get to go out with the guys who have some of the best dogs in the country up there, and we'll try to do a little bit of that. And if I do, we'll film a little bit of it as well too, for a sportsman's life and all those other kind of good things that you and I and Jeff Rice are involved in, and we'll show them what it was like.
You bet. Of course, I live southeast of Dallas, about 30 miles, and there are no wild quail in this part of the world. They're not. I mean, I'm not saying you might find an isolated covey that's regrouped from pen race birds or something, but Three Curls Outfitters, I'm going to be doing for lack of a better term, a released quail hunt. They have a fine lodge out near Waxahachie. I mean, a really nice place. Brett Jepson, he's been a guest on our show. I'm going to go out there, and I've got a new shotgun from Mossberg, Larry, that I've never even shot. I want to shoot some I've only had it about 3 weeks now, but hadn't had a chance to shoot it. But I want to do some out there at Three Curls, their lodge. They've got a trap and a skeet and a sporting clays. I want to shoot about 2 or 3 boxes of shells, and it's got a good feel to it. It's that Golden Reserve, over and under.
Oh, God, yes. I have a Silver Reserve and a 410 that I actually love, I'll tell you what. So I know that you're going to like that one.
It's got the feel. It feels good. It shoulders. It pretty much fits me, And, so I'm going to shoot some quail, and I'm going to use an old Bob Hood recipe. Take my I've already got it set up with their chef up there to do it. I'm going to bring my Dutch kettle, number 10 Dutch kettle, and the stuff I need to cook it. But quail, if there's any better, this is my favorite meal. Is me and Mr. Hood used to do this. We did it several times. Shoot some quail, and then for lunch, come in, have you, stir those embers up on that campfire, put a little more wood on there, get you some coals, and put about a stick of unsalted butter in that thing, and crush up about 3 rolls of Ritz crackers. Crush them up real good, pulverize them, in a Ziploc bag, and put those quail in there, melt that butter, and just kind of dredge those quail, and then cover them in that Ritz cracker meal, and then a little salt and a lot of black pepper, and then put the rest of that cracker meal, on top of it there, kind of like a dressing, if you will, it looks like. And put some coals under that Dutch kettle and some on top, and give it about 40 minutes, Larry. That's the best quail. But we're going to do that, and I'm going to try to film that, when we do it up here on this quail hunt. It's only, oh gosh, I can be there in probably 45 minutes, from my house.
You mentioned 3 quails, and it's getting close to Christmas time, and that would make a really nice Christmas present to somebody, to send somebody there that maybe thinks they would like to know something more about quail hunting or bird hunting, and or those folks that would really are really into it and have their own dogs, kind of thing. You mentioned with Christmas coming up, we need to mention too our books. You and I did a book called Campfire Talk. We did another one called Poor Man's Grizzly, and then I did one called Deer Addictions. And those are available for Christmas presents. They're autographed by you and me, and they're available through your website, which is catfishradio.org, or my website, which is larryweissoon.net. And then 2, I'm going to push my knives very quickly, because I'll tell you what, for a Christmas present, those knives, they're based on about 70 years of using knives, and they're made here, of course, in the USA. And those can be gotten by going to one of our other sponsors, VINEYARDMAX, which is vineyardmax.net. And those is kind of great kind of Christmas presents that we can come. And then 2, I want to remind people while we're talking about the DSC convention this year being in Atlanta, Georgia at the World Congress Center, January 9th through the 12th. All those can be combined into or parts of them into an absolutely great Christmas present for somebody you really care for.
You bet, and the timing's right on there. And folks, please buy our books.
Please.
This campfire talk. I mean, it's real stories. Larry's been all over the globe many times, and I've kicked around the outdoors for all my life, and so it's a lot of. I think we've been told by some folks that they enjoyed reading. It's written in our normal styles, and
exactly.
The topics are very varied. And this hog book, oh my gosh, I mean, there's so much information on hunting wild hogs. But there's plenty of time if you're looking for a quick gift. These things will ship out immediately. So I would say 3-4 days from the time they're ordered, they'll have them in their hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah, at least
or faster.
Right. You bet. And the books are signed. All the books are signed by Mr. Whitetail and old Luke. Larry, I think I'm being told we're about to exceed our limited time.
Sure we have.
But good luck on that panhandle hunt, buddy. That's going to be so much fun, and I want to hear about it. And the deer, yes, I'm always interested in hearing about our deer hunts, but the quail, too. I want to know about the quail when you get back.
We'll let everybody know right here.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination down at Lake Tawakoni. It's Wind Point Park. If you love the outdoors, if you like camping in an area, I bet I saw 60 deer. I was in there recently touring the place, went fishing down there. It's some awesome fishing, camping, long-term RV rentals overnight. There's some beautiful cabins, some bigger cabins and littler ones right there by fishing. You can walk out the door and fish at some of those places. But the place is neat as a pin. It's been around for 10 years, Wind Point Park. If you haven't been down there in the last 10 years, it's all remodeled and just beautiful. So check it out online. I think the website is windpointparktx.com. Of course, you can just Google Wind Point Park, Tawakoni, and pull it up. But I want you to know about it. You're going to be hearing old Luke talk about the fishing down there a lot. I've already done some bank fishing there, so you can catch a lot of blues, and you can also catch a ton of channel catfish along those rocks. Another thing I want to tell you about, VINEYARDMAX. The website is vineyardmax.net. They make an awesome line of game feeders, fish feeders. They're just an awesome product, but they also have a deer attractant. That's what I really want to tell you about. It's called VINEYARDMAX. It's made from dried, hammer-milled grape hulls and wheat bran, I think it is, or, ground-up wheat, and also some corn chops. So it's got stuff in it deer-like, plus it's got that scent of grapes that we've used it. Larry and I have used it out in West Texas where a deer have never seen a grape and had them come in on it. So check that out, and the website again is vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, let's head down to beautiful Lake Tawakoni, and my buddy, guide David Hanson, is standing by. We're going to talk about bear, we're going to talk about catfish, and have a little fun. But David, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Luke. You know me, I'm always ready for shooting the breeze about hunting and fishing.
You bet. People say, people that don't know about what I do, you do a radio show, they're thinking it's some kind of a news show. And I say, yeah, it's called Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and friends. And, what do y'all cover the major topics? I said, there's no telling what we're going to talk about. Especially when you and I get together. But, okay, folks, if you're in Texas, you know David Hanson. He's the most veteran catfish guide on Lake Tawakoni. You already know who he is. If you're listening to this as a podcast up in Bangor, Maine or somewhere, after it airs on all of our wonderful radio stations, Lake Tawakoni is just east of Dallas, about an hour. It's kind of the catfish capital of the Southwest, I always say, maybe the South. Let's start with, we're going to talk about bear, I promise, but we're going to first talk about these big catfish. It is trophy time if a person wants to catch a big catfish. This is right here kind of the start of the best time of the year, David,
Yes, it is. And, excuse me, what also goes along with this, we're not only catching the trophies, you're catching a good eating size fish, you're catching your trophies. The fish are especially the blue cat, are way more active when this cooler water temperatures come in, and everything is, excuse me.
It's okay, buddy.
In our favor.
Yeah.
In our favor, let's put it that way.
Yep. It's the time of the year when you go after targeting the big ones. But a guy like me, you know what I'm going to say next. Yeah, the big ones are wonderful. I like to catch one every now and then. But if given a choice, you give me those 2 to 10 to 12 pounders anytime.
Yes,
and then, but if you've got a fresh, oily bait in the water in Lake Tawakoni and you have the rig to hold a big fish, the truth of the matter is you're subject to catch one anytime, a big one, even summer sometimes, right?
Absolutely. Though, if you're fishing, your chances are always good, especially on this lake. This summer I was catching them in 92.5-degree water and 1.5 foot water.
I know.
Now,
yep.
Right now, your water temperature's down probably in the upper 50s, and we're catching them anywhere from 1.5 foot to 35 foot of water.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and the action is good. The size of the fish is as good as it's ever been. And I may have mentioned this to you before, but prior to the last 5 years, our teenage fish, let's call them, the ones that run from 10 to 19 pounds, had become few and far between. now that things have happened through nature and whatnot, we're seeing that size range is plentiful again.
That's good, and that's good, like for the brood stock too, right?
Well,
down the road.
not only that, it's just the lake has been rumored to have been going downhill. Well, nature has its own way, and that's nature's way of restocking and rebuilding, and that's what's happening. And in my eyes, I'm seeing what happened when they first started showing up in the lake after they stocked them in '89. We started catching a lot of the fish, right out within 3 years from 10 to 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of them, and it's showing up again. So if they go through the same growth spurt they went through that time, there'll be numerous more 60-pounders in the next 5 to 10 years.
Good. It's the future looks good. And how many people, honestly, David? You've guided thousands of people through your career, but a 10 to 20 pound catfish, that will stretch your line. There's a whole lot of people on a rod and reel that's never caught like a 15-pound catfish on a rod and reel. A lot of them. So
most people.
And one reason is, I believe this to be true. One reason is they're not geared up to hold one. I mean, you take a 15, 20-pound catfish, not to say you couldn't catch him if everything went just right while you're crappie fishing, but more than likely there's a lot of those kind of fish lost just because they're not, well, like you use those CatfishPro rigs.
Right.
And, I mean, they'll hold a 2.5 pounder, and they can handle it. It's not too big for that, but they'll also handle a 70 pounder. So that may be because they're not rigged up for them. Now, so folks, if you want to go catch a bunch of blue catfish, or maybe the one of your life, we're going to leave David Hanson's phone number just a little bit. I want to shift gears to New Mexico. Now, you were up there with your family, and folks, a little precursor here. David used to, when we outfitted, Larry Large and I, for several years, and I pulled out, and then Larry did later, outfitted up north of northwest kind of part of Colorado, north of Steamboat Springs. Well, David was our cook, and he ran the camp there for several years. So that's where you kind of got the inkling on bear. There's a lot of bear up there. You guys went up to some land you lease in New Mexico and brought some meat back, right?
Yes, sir. We were there for 5 days. We experienced 100-year flood, amongst other things.
Yeah.
And out of 6 of us, we had 3 animals down, 2 elk, a cow, and a bull, and a bear.
And the bear. Well, yes. What prompted this? Not to interrupt you, but folks, David sent me a picture of a bear roast. And I'll swear, a brisket, the best Wagyu beef brisket, if there is such a thing, wouldn't look any better than that. And David is a heck of a cook. I love to cook too. But I asked David, I asked you, well, that sure looked good. What did it taste like? Tell us. It was bear meat. What did it taste like?
Well, the closest thing I can get to is a lean brisket.
Mm-hmm.
The texture of the meat, the color of the meat, and the flavor were more like brisket than any other wild game I've ever put in my mouth. It's absolutely delicious. And, they say that an old bear tastes like what he eats. Well, whatever he'd been eating must have been honey, because he was good.
Honey and berries. Yeah, I do. I do know this, that, and I know it from people that have eaten a lot of bear. One on a fish diet, say up feeding on salmon or whatever, I've been told that they don't even eat those bear, a lot of them, the trophy hunters. But if you catch one that's been eating berries, feeding on berries, and you said up in that part of New Mexico there was a lot of berries, and chances are, this one's on a vegetation diet, I bet you.
Yes, sir. There in that area, of course, you've got choke cherries, rose hips, and the assorted different berries that grow up there. And, in this time frame, those bear are covering, a lot of ground and trying to get full to eat 10, 15,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
And when we were hunting and you found bear scat. It was full of berry seeds and acorns.
That answers the question. And acorns too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and one thing, I've never had the privilege of trying this, but you guys brought back some bear fat. Now, a bear reminds me a lot of a hog in a lot of ways. They just do.
Yes.
But they also pack what a hog would be packing lard. Well, it's the same thing. It's bear fat. And you go back to reading in the 1820s, the mountain men and all that, they treasured that bear fat. Even today, I've got friends up in Saskatchewan and all that hunt a lot of bear. You know, they put them in the freezer, and they say they take that lard and that for pie crust or frying fish. If you have a quart of that stuff, I'll get with you. I always wanted some fish fried in that. They say it is absolutely better than any kind of cooking oil you can get for its flavor, David. So that's something to think about, you know.
Oh yeah, and you know, on testing this meat when we cooked it, we left some of that fat on that meat.
Yeah.
Well, to me, if you want the true flavor that an animal has, you eat some of that fat.
You got
and
it.
That fat was as clean, and I mean, it just melted in your mouth.
Snow White.
Oh
man, I'd like to try some of it. And that's one thing about venison, and you know, of course, I've been cooking game and procuring it from the woods for many years, but a lot of people do not understand. I've seen it on these chat groups and all that. Venison, if a cut of venison that you're going to eat has any fat on it, cut it off. That's where the bad flavor, people are, hey, it's awful gamey. And you know, I've had them say, yeah, well, leave that fat on there. It'll help baste it. No, it won't. It's a hard fat, and if you trim venison, to be honest with you, a good old backstrap steak off of venison trimmed, to me, is as good as any meat you can get. You know, but a lot of people, they still get tricked up on that. On a bear fat, pork fat, yes, use it. But you know, venison, you better trim it off, or have your butcher do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, we took a doe one year and hung her for 14 days with a hide on her in a buddy of mine's cooler, and I'm going to say that I've never eaten venison that good before.
Aged, yes.
Aged with the hide on for 14 days. It would have blown my mind. Of course, we was raised to get that hide off her in 30 minutes.
I know. Well, and that adds a lot to it. And that meat was a dark red. I mean, it looked like beef, didn't it? You know.
Yes. And the thing is, we had another doe that the other fella had taken on the same day we took ours, and he hung her in there without the hide on her. But when you pull the hide off of our deer, it looked like you just brought her in and skinned her right then. Instead
of having to cut about 1/8 of an inch of crust off of all that meat.
Absolutely.
I've done it. I've been there and done it. David, they're telling me I wish we had about 4 more hours to shoot the breeze with all of our friends, but we don't. Somebody want to go catfishing with you at Lake Tawakoni, what's the best way to reach you, David?
903-268-7391.
That's simple, and hopefully we'll get together and get us a Dutch kettle with some of that bear fat. I know you got the catfish. I got the fish. I see a fish fry coming. Talk to you later, buddy. Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weishuhn is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is level because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, our next guest is Mr. Shane Davies, River Run Guide Service. Now, if you're listening on all of our fine radio stations, and I hope you are, you may know where the Brazos River is, below Possum Kingdom, an hour or so west of Fort Worth. If you're listening to a podcast, you may not know about it. The area we're talking about is the Brazos River, and the general vicinity is a little bit west of Fort Worth. Shane Davies, buddy, thank you so much for being with us.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to talk river fishing with you, Luke.
Yep. It's
striper, wintertime striper fishing is a great thing on the Brazos.
It is. It's so much fun, and just being on that Brazos, I've spent, I won't, and by your standards, not a lot of time, but I've been in there many times, fishing the river. Below Possum Kingdom, that's the area, the Holt River Ranch, that section of the river, I've been there a whole bunch in the past, but it's an absolutely beautiful part of the world. And the stripers, that's what we want to really talk about, is the guided river striper fishing trips that you're doing now, Shane.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been seeing pictures on social media, some nice fish. I mean, it's hard to judge their size, but some that will put some tension on your fishing rod. I can tell
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How you catching them, buddy?
Well, it's interesting. We've had these fish are here, that the Parks and Wildlife, these fish aren't stocked. They find their way into the rivers. And I know you mentioned Possum Kingdom.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, they've been releasing, there's been quite a bit of water in that bit of the watershed moving through there. And they release that through the gate. And that's what gets fish moving through the basin. So these are actually fish that come through the gates at Possum Kingdom, not only Possum Kingdom, but at Granbury. We also, they're the next reservoir down from PK. And they go over the gates and they come from downriver. The 24 and 36-hour releases that they've been doing from some of the higher rains that they had earlier a month ago or so ago, those flows were enough that they were able to drop the gates. And when they do that, those fish come over the gates. They follow, what they're doing is they're following their food source. And when the shad go over, they're right behind them. And it's interesting, you can actually tell these fish, we call it gate rash. And you can see some of them will have their gill plates, a little chip off their gill plates, some scales moving, removed, and a little beat up. You can tell they made quite a journey. So that's interesting. A lot of people don't know that there's actually other than, some rainbow trout and every now and then some smallmouth bass, they really don't stock anything in the Brazos.
Yeah.
So these fish are there on their own accord, and they will, when the water comes back down, we go in and we target them. I most effectively target them. These are something I don't really do a lot of, but I do specifically to target them is live shad fishing. So we're using live shad. I've got special tanks for my boats, and we're sneaking around, and I've got a square back canoe, and customers are in kayaks, and we're sneaking up on these fish in these pools. Some of these fish are coming out of 8 foot of water or less, and clear water.
Yeah.
So these fish are, we're like stalking them. It's a little bit different. There's no electronics. Most of what people think of striper fishing, it's different. Being done on the lake. But
I get it.
That's what we like about being on the river.
You bet. Well, when you said sneaking up, I've never done this with you, but I can picture it. There's probably some bends in the river, some deeper holes that you know every one of them on that stretch of river. I bet you're saying, okay, guys, let's. I don't know if you're even going to be catching them out of the boat. You may be sneaking up with those live shad and on the bank. I don't know, but you're gonna.
Absolutely.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that is another way to do it. And when we get in an area, when we locate fish, there's a couple ways we do it. What I like to do is we'll what I call bump trolling, where we'll actually have shad 30 or 40 yards behind the kayaks.
Mm-hmm.
The customers will each have and they're suspended under a balloon, free swimming, nose hooked. And gizzard shad, I usually like at 6 to 10 inches is about the perfect size for what we do, and to target some of the bigger fish. And I call it bump trolling. They're basically just very light bumps of the paddle, just enough to keep moving in a direction and keep distance between you and the bait. And they're coming up. And if we locate an area where there's activity, where they're moving in these long bends, and we'll get 2 or 3 takedowns, that'll be an area that I'll probably want to ease back off of and go, because what happens is when these fish are hooked, they're going to pull you around.
Yeah. And
these runs aren't very big. So a lot of them, I mean, for what most people would think for striper water, not big at all. So
yeah.
we'll back off, let that settle down a little bit, and then because you can really stay on fish. If you have 3 or 4 people getting pulled around in kayaks, you're going to scatter those fish. So once I find them, I'll either make a mental note, come back and fish from the sides and throw out to them. Mm-hmm. Usually, I call it a goat on a chain, but basically it's a Carolina slip sinker rigged shad.
Yep.
And making long casts. Kind of reminds me of my plunking days for salmon back up in the Northwest.
Yeah,
big ring, just lobbing it out there 30 yards or so.
Yeah.
And just waiting them out.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun. Your trips for the stripers on the Brazos, and again, folks, we're talking about an hour or so west of Fort Worth, Texas. That's where we're talking about. Below
yes, sir. There's really nothing I do on the Brazos that isn't more than about an hour and a half from the metro.
Yeah, exactly. If a person wanted to get up early and join you for a day trip down the Brazos fishing, they can do that. It's cool weather. I like to gear up for it. An overnight camp out or something like that, fishing. Are you doing those this time of year if the people want to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I am. That's a great 2-day trip to do that, and that is always something that's, and like I said, with those same techniques also can produce some extremely good blues, channel, and flatheads this time of year. So it can get into a multi-species extravaganza, if you will. I can't tell you we haven't hooked some big, crazy enough, long-nosed gar are actually very tackle shy, and we've caught some real monsters on these same techniques. I'm talking like up 58 inches.
Ooh,
and for a long-nosed gar, we've brushed the state record a couple of times, come within half inch or so of it. So
you bet.
That's also and it's amazing. Most people don't think, a 3-footer doesn't fight all that great, but I got to tell you, when you start getting these long-nosed gar over about 48 inches, it's like they'll greyhound, fight, and strip line. It's almost like a tarpon. They absolutely go crazy.
They do. I've caught a few big gar. That's awesome. Now, so if you were camped out, just say, on a day, a night trip there, set up camp on the banks of the Brazos, if you want a guy like me who's the problem with me is, if it's a problem, maybe it is a problem. I like to catch anything that swims, just about. But a guy could put out a little cut bait on maybe, and catch some of those channel cat or something if he wanted to fillet 1 or 2 for an evening fish fry, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I got to tell you, one of my favorite techniques for doing that is taking one of the most prolific and largest species of sunfish on the Brazos would be the red breast.
Uh-huh.
I love taking about an 8 to 10 inch red breast.
Yeah.
And what I'll do on that is I'll cut the tail. I'm just going to cut that tail off the end of that thing and throw it out there live. Yeah. And I got to tell you, man, that'll bring them out of the woodwork.
Those flatheads, or any of them, probably, right?
Yeah. So the bait never really dies. It stays basically somewhat alive. It just doesn't move. Gives off a lot of the vibes and the scent. You got that fresh scent leaching.
Yep.
A lot of bait, it can get some tremendous response. And I won't tell you, just about anything will pick that up.
It will.
Anything would pick that up.
Yes.
You can get stripers, anything. We've even, flipped up and caught some good sized bass in the winter doing that.
Yeah, folks. the trips that Shane runs out in the Devil's River, way far west Texas, and the Pecos. I love to have you, Shane, talking about what you see, like on the Devil's River. That's people that, yes, it is Texas, but it is a wild river. I've never been on it, but I've talked to you so much, and I have a pretty good idea what it's like. But a trip there, you told me that if people want to go during the winter, you love to go. The foliage is beautiful, and you like to get on it even if people are interested in those trips in the wintertime, don't you?
Absolutely. People from up north that don't hunt, and a lot of people get snowed in. I have customers that come down from Missouri, and so if you don't, and they want to fish, and they'll come down, travel down. That's snowbird country down there.
Yeah.
South in that southwest area there. So it's whatever the weather is in the United States, it's usually some of the best.
Yeah.
So they'll come down, and of course the days are shorter. So those are actually some of our longer trips. It's not unusual. I got one customer of mine. His boilerplate trip is 8 days. So on the Pecos. So we'll go down, and I'll outfit us for a complete day. He basically showing up with a 140-liter dry bag with 12 pounds or less of gear, and I furnish everything else. I'm doing all the meals, handling all the logistics, all the equipment, tents, everything.
Yeah, I've said it.
We have satellite communications while we're on the river, of course. I always do.
Yep. I've said it many times, and I do mean it. Of all the people I've dealt with in the outdoors, and it's been scores of them, in almost 40 years as an outdoor rider and everything else I do. Folks, Shane here is the real deal. How would you like, I'm talking to all our friends listening, Shane, how would you like to have about, 4, 6, 8 people that you're in charge of, and you're going to take them into some wilderness, really wilderness country on a river, and you're going to take care, you are responsible for those people. Shane, my hat is off to you, buddy, because I've done enough guiding in much tamer conditions, in the mountains even. That is something. What you do is not something that you're going to learn how to do overnight, is it?
That's you're absolutely right. You bring up a great point there, and that is what is so awesome on these trips down there is that you're different. You are not the same person when you showed up, and I don't mean you're missing. You're not missing fingers or anything.
Right.
I'm talking about you
right.
are. It's the sense of accomplishment, and it's like I said, it's life-changing stuff.
It is. I want to add this. You can take, and I know this is true. You can take a poor guy that's been in the office a lot. He's in good enough shape to do what he needs to do, but he's lived in a stressful world. All of a sudden, from night to day, he's in a setting where the stress is, if there is any, is how to get the boat around this fast water or whatever. His whole world has changed, and I can see after a few days of that, it could be better than some time on a couch with a shrink,
Absolutely. That is a great point. And to see it happen and to be with these people and experience it, and the relationships and bonds, it's one of the things that really keeps me in it.
Yeah. Well, let's do this. We're about out of time for our segment. Shane, how's the best way for somebody to, I know River Run Guide Service is the name of it,
yes,
but
sir.
You like to how do they contact you?
A text, a phone call. My phone number is always an easy way to get a hold of me. Obviously, I'm on the river quite a bit, and I don't have cell reception, but if somebody will leave a message, or I may actually pick up the phone.
Yep, that's right.
But at that number, whenever we're ready, I'm happy to give that number out.
All right, folks, grab your pencil, and you can always, if you listen to a podcast, you can always rerun it. But how do they call you, buddy?
That number is 214-418-9786.
Shane, thank you so much for being with us. We've run a little longer than normal, but it's been fun stuff, and I hope to see you before very long, buddy.
Absolutely. Me too, Luke. I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity. Always love talking Texas. Sure.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use. You can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas. And VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, what do you say we shift gears a little bit and talk some waterfowl hunting with somebody that does waterfowl hunts for a living, Mr. Jacob Salmon, Full Throttle Outdoors. Jacob has been a friend, and he's been on our show several times, and he's going to be on it again throughout the waterfowl season up in the Texas Panhandle. Jacob, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for continuing to have me on.
You're going to be on as long as you want to be, I promise you. And you're supplying some great information. You're en route now back up to the Panhandle, I believe, aren't you?
Yes, sir. We are heading that away.
Yep. Okay, so here we are, mid-December. Now, we started talking about the cranes earlier. You know, crane hunting was good, but by mid-December in the Texas Panhandle, I won't say all the birds, but majority of them are probably there. Ducks, geese, and cranes, right?
Yes, sir. We'll be packed in by then, and we'll be hunting geese and crane mainly every day, and then ducks on Sundays, you know?
Yep. What's up there now in mid-December? Is a lot of snow showing up, or are they there now?
Yes, sir. We've got some snows trickling in still, a bunch of lessers, and tons of crane.
So the crane, and I haven't had a chance to hunt cranes in, it's probably been 8 or 10 years. But the crane numbers, sandhill crane numbers are, I've heard they're maybe stronger than ever now. What's your take on that, Jacob?
I'd have to agree. They're smarter than ever, too.
I know that's right. Are they smarter than a goose, a crane? Or more wary, I should say?
They're a little more wary, yes, sir.
They, I know, I'm not a crane expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I've hunted them several times, and I know when I did get one, I've killed, 6 or 8 of them in my life. That's it. But 1 or 2 each time. But those things look like B-52 bombers when they're coming in low. They to me, they're worth the price of admission going up there to hunt cranes, you know. So speckled bellies. Let's talk something practical stuff. What's your favorite goose? Let's stay away from the crane for a minute. Your favorite goose to eat?
My favorite goose would definitely be a speckled belly, a nice fat speckled belly with a good fat cap. And we got to take them when we can get them because we lose them pretty quick. Speckled bellies come and go pretty quick in our area. But when we do have them, that is definitely my favorite to eat.
The fine and you know, we might have talked about this before on waterfowl. You know, the rare. A lot of people eat them rare, but what's your favorite way? Say you've got a prime speckled belly, or 2 or 3 of them you're going to cook. How do you like to prepare them? Your favorite way?
I do them hot and fast in the cast iron, just like you'd be doing a steak.
Yep. With butter, or what kind of or oil, or what do you use?
I start with a little oil and finish it off with butter and rosemary, the whole nines.
That's pretty tasty stuff. And then ducks, I've always, I like to take those things, and I love a wrap, with it's just a basic old, I call them an old Texas wrap, everything from venison to dove, but sliver of jalapeno, a little cheese, and a fatty bacon, maybe 2 strips, a duck or goose, really, breast half, and wrap it in bacon, and I smoke it until it's no rare, it's well done, but most people that tell me they don't like waterfowl when I cook it like that, and make little cartwheel, cut it cross sections there, they usually tear it up.
Yes, sir. There's a million ways to cook it, and then the best one's the right one, right? Is your favorite.
That's a good way to put it, you bet. So as far now, say we're concentrating on snow geese up there. The areas, what's the most prime area that you hunt for snows?
Oh, further away from Lubbock I can get.
Yep, and that would be for folks that are listening. Of course, we're on the radio stations, and then after the stations, it becomes a podcast, and people are listening. Bangkok, Maine. I mean, they're everywhere. Bangor, Maine. So, what towns around that area are they that you hunt?
What are some? Gosh, I can't even tell you names of towns out there. They're so
there's
small.
One.
You drove through.
There's one called. Is it Floridata? Floridata. That's one.
Floridata has always been a pretty historically rich area. You can go further north from there, or way out west towards New Mexico, even.
Yeah, it's the Texas Panhandle, friends, is a large chunk of real estate. So, and it's scattered with little towns, and some of them, most like Jacob, I know how to get there, but I don't. Plainview, I remember the names of some of them, but it's an awesome place. What's a typical? Somebody wants to come out and go hunting with you. This would be very useful for people. Tell us the sequence. What do they want to do? Of course, they'd book the hunt with you, and you would help them decide whether they wanted to hunt cranes, or the ideal situation would be to stay and hunt some geese and cranes and ducks, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir. The ideal situation is usually 2-3 days. We're shooting crane one day, goose the next, and if they wanted to stay a third day, then we're picking whatever's the best from then on, or whatever they wanted to do.
Right. And lodging, how about that? How would they work their lodging once they get up there?
Yeah, as soon as they book with us, they can they have a choice to stay in our lodge or one of the plenty of hotels or B&Bs that we have there in the Lubbock area to accommodate. I mean, there's plenty of options for stays in that area. Lodging
is not a problem. So, and then you've got you were telling me, I haven't been up there, but I want to go, and I plan to. But there's you've got a lodge that you can sleep. How many people in that?
There's 13 beds in that one.
Oh yeah, and then it's located where I guess you get up and then jump in the truck with you guys, or follow you in your truck, and you're probably not too far from the hunting areas, right?
Correct. Yeah, we're not too far of a trek, depending on which way we're going.
Yep. Well, Jacob, thanks for the update. The word is up in the Texas Panhandle right now. The birds are there. The opportunity's there. They need to contact you to talk. And once they get on the phone with you, you can help them. And each one of them will have unique questions that they want to ask you, I'm sure. I know you spend a lot of time on the phone talking to folks this time of year. Full Throttle Outdoors, right? Is that?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, Full Throttle Outdoors, and they go there.com, of course, and they go there. Then the number they can call and get more information and plan their hunt up there with you, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, Jacob, thanks a lot. I know you're rolling down the road, probably still got a couple of 3 more hours to go to get there, but be safe on the road. And I do want to get you back, in a week or two, right around Christmas, another time, and find out, what's going on and maybe connect more people with you, because it is prime time to hunt geese in the Texas Panhandle. Thank you a lot, Jacob, for being with us, buddy.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you've had a good time, too. This segment was made possible by AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder, 2 awesome thermal scopes that I use for all my night hunting. Check out AGM, all the products that they have there online, agmglobalvision.com. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.